The Walking Dead Season 7 finale, the first day of the rest of your life. Now, of course, going into this episode, I think everyone was just waiting, like, who is going to die in this finale? And I won't say I was surprised. I think everyone kind of figured it would be Sasha just because of the way things kind of played out. But the way they did it, where it kind of switched, the way that she died with it being so somber and, her choosing to do it actually, oddly enough, using the pill, which she wanted the exact opposite for because she wanted to fight her way out initially, and then getting that pill as sort of a quick, easy way to die, and it ends up becoming the choice that she made, as her actual form of death in order to help protect everyone, which she certainly did considering they were at... it's hard to even call it a standoff because I'm pretty sure everybody that was good would have been killed off, or at least most of them, considering that whole situation. But, you open up a casket and you think someone's going to be in there, and then poof, you got a zombie coming at you. It'll throw things off and then chaos. So, the way they did it I thought was pretty good. This episode actually played out a lot like last year's mid-season premiere, where that was when all the walkers were actually inside of Alexandria, and we had that kid that everybody hated and his mom, and then the brother who was a douchebag and shot Carl in the eye. Those three, when they got killed off, and then all the walkers were swarming everybody, and it was holy crap, what's gonna happen? And then at the very end, and this was instead of it being a group of characters, it was just Glenn at the time during his first pseudo death, I think it was. I think that was before the trash. But yeah, everyone thought he was gonna die, and then of course the cavalry comes in, and then everybody fights back, and so I felt it played out a lot like that. I thought that was a bit more entertaining just because of how tense it was, because things were... I kind of knew what this episode was going to be just as a comic reader. I was like, okay, they did their one death. I kind of figured we weren't going to see more because I'm like, trust me, there are more than enough deaths occurring in the next season. I can already assume that because of what I've read. So, them only killing one person, I was like, yeah, that kind of makes sense. They gotta save a lot of people for next season. They can't be going off 3-4 kills in this episode because they got it depends what they decide to do. I mean, obviously they can change things up on who lives and who dies, but I don't know. There's quite a bit coming down the pipeline, so we'll see what happens this next season, with the next season's premiere actually being the 100th episode. So that's very cool that they were able to actually even pace it out like that. I don't think I've ever seen that happen, where a show had their 100th episode or any sort of landmark episode as either the premiere or the finale. So, I was curious, maybe they decided to do it that way, one extra episode or one less episode or something like that to hit the premiere or something like that. So I thought that was just a random cool little thing for the end of the year. But definitely a fun episode. The only thing that really bugged me about this is the fact that it was kind of obvious that Sasha was going to die from the beginning, because they kept doing the really somber character flashbacks to the day Abraham died, and I was like, ooh, this is making it super obvious. Even the way it starts, excuse me, it kind of goes through and it's okay, she's tearing up and stuff, and she's breathing heavily, and she's listening to the music, and it's she took the pill. It seemed fairly obvious, and add on top of that where it just seems okay, I think she took the pill, she's freaking out, why would she be crying? It's pitch black, so it's, I was thinking throughout the episode, okay, maybe she's not somewhere where she's stuck, maybe she is with other people, but I was like, what could she possibly be looking at? And the tiny little light, I didn't think about it being an old iPod or anything, but I was like, it's a tiny light, it's not there's a big light underneath her. It was a small light, so I'm like, she's definitely alone, but what's happening here? So that's what I was trying to figure out. So I was like, I'm pretty sure she took the pill, because otherwise, why would she be freaking out so much? But also in such a calm position, just the way she was set up, being alone in pitch black and listening to the song, really kind of juxtaposed with the way her face looked, and I'm like, she has to have taken the pill. So that was the only thing where I was like, it just was obvious from the beginning that this is the one person that's going to die, and I figured that we would only get one death. I didn't think we'd actually have multiple deaths. Not until all the chaos actually started playing out, I was like, maybe they'll kill some a much lesser character. I didn't think a major character, but I was like, maybe a lesser character will die off, and we didn't even really get that. We had some nameless characters. Maybe they did have names, so technically that might count, but you know, we just had some random people die off. Ultimately, all the main characters are fine. They did do an awesome callback, or I guess throw to the comic book with the sort of tower segment. That was actually pretty awesome. I really enjoyed that with Michonne and they actually do have a name, but the trash people, the trash woman. And they made it kind of seem like Michonne fell off the thing. That was straight out of the comic books, except it was Andrea instead of Michonne in the comics. So that was really awesome that they did that. I was like, oh, that's really cool. A cool way to do that. Definitely more internal, because in the comic books, it's a bit scarier because they're like all on the outside of the walls. And in this, I felt, even though they were all surrounded, for some reason I felt way better than when I was reading it in the comics, because they were like dragged outside, and the tower wasn't inside of Alexandria. It was like an abandoned tower on the outside where like no one was able to protect anybody. And I was like, it just felt more tense. It was still, yeah, and plus I read the comics, so I was like, I know she's not gonna die. But for some reason, even though everyone's surrounded, I was like, I feel like somebody else could die. For some reason, them being inside the wall just made me feel way more protected than the comics when they were like taking outside the walls to do it. But of course, you know, things get really chaotic, and you know, we have the official reveal of the death of Sasha, where she, you know, sacrifices herself to save everyone, and that was pretty good. You know, that comes after, of course, the betrayal of the trash people. I mean, just saying it out loud makes it real obvious. But of course, everyone ends up being betrayed. The trash people take over, and you know, they pull their guns, and we find out that they actually made a deal with the Saviors at some random point in time. And at first, I was like, maybe they actually are Saviors. They just kind of, you know, this kind of just kicked off. So I was like, well, let's do it this way. And then it turns out, no, they were actually their own group, and they just made a deal with the Saviors, and that was pretty much all there was to it. Also, none of those characters die. There are only three that really matter. It's Jadis, and then the other two people whose names I don't remember. They're the only three in the entire group that make a difference, and none of them died. So they're definitely going to show up in the next season. I'm sure people will be happy to see, especially Jadis, get killed off. I even saw a tweet where someone was like, I want her to die more horrifically than Negan. I thought that was really funny. But they end up betraying the group. Fortunately, like I said, everyone ends up surviving, despite the fact that Rick was shot. She, like, you know, of course she just grazed him at first. I was like, okay, that's not that big of a deal. And then she like kicked him off the thing. I'm pretty sure those are like almost 20 feet up. I'm like, that could have definitely been a huge issue. Even if that's 10 feet just falling sideways, he could have broke anything. But I was just like, man, she shot him in the stomach and grazed him, like, you know, that was your one warning. And then she kicks him through the open space, and I was like, I didn't see that coming. He wasn't as injured as I thought, but I was like, wow, she just, you know, kicks him off the side. And this is where all the chaos is going down. I was surprised Rick wasn't just shot in the side of his head anyway, just because all this chaos is going down, and Jadis is still just standing there with the gun to his head, and she's like, you know, basically don't move. But I like the way it played out with all the action. Of course, we have, you know, that moment with Eugene where he officially says, I'm Negan, so that was something. And he was definitely about to get killed if it weren't for the fact that, you know, everyone was being betrayed and the bombs weren't defused. So, interesting moment, and it's really hard to say, knowing how things play out in the comics, it's really hard to say what in the world they're doing with Eugene in this, because it's so different from, like, if I remember right at least, none of this stuff happens where he, like, even remotely joins them. Like, I don't think there's ever a part where he gets taken by the Saviors. So it's very different, and I'm very curious where that's going to end up going. So I'm excited for that in the next season. All the chaos was really crazy. We, of course, have finally the true union of our three different communities, so that was pretty awesome. And we have, you know, little segments early on in the episode where we have some of our characters at the hilltop, which was pretty interesting because they talk about Gregory. And I mentioned in the last episode, I thought for sure, I'm like, he must be going to see that dude, the second, I want to say his name is Sam. I really can't remember that guy's name at all, but the second in command for Negan. And I was like, okay, that must be where he's going, but clearly that wasn't the case, because otherwise they would have had some sort of reference to that, I would assume. So it was just weird. I was like, okay, well, if he didn't end up going with them, he must have gone somewhere different, unless it was kind of in the dialogue vaguely mentioned, like, oh, he definitely did tell them, and he was headed back to the hilltop, because they kind of referenced it seemingly in the last episode when they talked about, like, a little birdie, and I was like, are they talking about Gregory or, you know, somebody else? But I was like, okay, so the Hilltop comes in, we get to see a little bit of them. Of course, we get to see a bit of the Kingdom. We get to see Morgan actually join them, and of course, Carol is with Ezekiel and stuff, so they're all kind of riding in. We actually get to see Morgan kill somebody in this episode, and he does it, of course, in front of Rick, and that was actually a really awesome moment after he killed that guy, and they both kind of nod. I'm like, that's really awesome, because, they talk about Glenn at the end of this episode when Maggie gives her speech about how everything is so different because Glenn chose to save Rick, but it's also very different because Morgan chose to save Rick. So, it was just a cool moment to see, like, literally the first person, or I guess technically the second person, because the first person was Morgan's son that Rick saw, but it was just really cool. It was like, he kills that guy and then they kind of nod, and then Morgan picks up a gun. He just started shooting. I don't know who he was aiming at, but he just picked up a gun and just boom, boom, boom. So I was like, that was actually a cool little back-to-back moment they had there. But, chaos reigns. Shiva kills 2 people, which was super awesome. Everybody else is just killing anybody. All the villains got either killed off or they just ran screaming because, of course, the deafened tiger came in, so it's crazy. So I thought it was cool. Everybody ends up living to just die another day, but it was definitely a good episode. And then we have, of course, a fairly somber ending where after we have Negan officially decide, like, we're going to war, we of course have the group kind of recovering, and they go get Sasha's body and have a moment for her, and then have kind of an official meeting with like our 3 leaders. So we have Maggie, who, it's cool that they're officially getting to that point where like she's officially the leader of the Hilltop. So I thought that was sweet. And then of course, we have Rick, and then naturally we have Ezekiel next to him. So very great moment. A bit of a somber ending, and just a way to kind of remember a couple of characters all at once, with the way, some, lost quite a few important characters in this. So it was a cool way to do it. I certainly like that, and definitely excited for the next season. Like I said, as far as I'm concerned, I think this was a good finale. I don't think it was like explosive or super epic or super crazy. If they killed off more people, it definitely would have been. And I kind of, it's kind of a weird back and forth, because I'm like, it depends what they do with like the Dwight stuff. I was really curious. I'm like, depending on what happens, there could certainly be more deaths in this, but I think, there's a certain thing with him that comes up, it's going to have to be in the next season. And I was kind of wondering, like, is that going to happen this episode, or are they going to save that for maybe next time? But it seems Dwight's going to have to do his work a little later on, and I'm pretty sure the scene with Daryl where he finds the little wooden army man, I'm pretty sure that was supposed to be from Dwight, where it's like, I didn't know that it was going to, like, play out this way where the people ended up betraying you and stuff like that. So I thought that was cool. That was kind of like his little thing. Maybe I'm making a stretch. I assume that was supposed to be a reference to like a Trojan horse because it was wooden, that sort of deal. I don't know. And it's a lone wooden army man instead of course, a wooden horse. So I'm assuming that's supposed to be what that reference is, like Dwight is the Trojan horse. So that's why I believe it was him. I think it was supposed to be referencing that, just because for whatever reason I know the actual story of the Trojan horse. So that's why I believe that was, of course, meant to be Dwight saying, I didn't know that, the trash people were going to betray you guys. But I'm excited for where we're headed in the next season. This is definitely, like I said, I thought it was good, for sure, especially when it finally got to the end, when we got to, like, the action. And that's kind of what I was waiting for, because I was like, all right, I know, especially as a comic reader, I was like, I kind of know how it's going to play out. And also, they kind of made it very apparent early on, it's going to be a lot more drama than I think some people may have been expecting. I saw some people where they kind of hated this finale, but there definitely was a lot of talking in the beginning. And of course, the stuff they did with Sasha, like I said, I didn't like the fact that they made it so obvious that she was going to be the one to die, basically from the beginning, with like a nondescript opening sequence. Like, okay, well, either this is the end of the episode where she's about to die, or this is something happening, but it instantly gives you the feeling like, okay, she's died. And so I wish that was just not there. Like, if they made it lesser, or maybe if they didn't even show the coffin stuff, they just had the flashback scenes with her and Abraham, maybe that would have been something. And then, maybe save it to the part, like, because as soon as Negan, like, taps on the coffin and then it cuts to right before she gets in the coffin, I'm pretty sure that's where everyone realized, like, if you couldn't figure it out from earlier on, it's like, all right, you have to know that the reason they cut it there is because she's going to come out and then she's going to be, zombified Sasha. So, I just kind of wish it wasn't as obvious, and it's kind of one of those things where I feel like they always do this, but it's like a 90-minute thing, and I'm like, I feel like there's a lot of stuff in here that could have been taken out, mostly the Sasha stuff with her, in the coffin, where it's like, just take that out, and just, like, if they just randomly cut to the flashbacks, I think that would have been fine. Also, the one they did with Sasha and Maggie, I thought was really weird, just because they didn't even talk until it was like literally at the end, and it was Maggie giving that speech to Sasha. I was like, okay, now it makes sense, but it was just really weird non sequitur scenes when they first popped up. I didn't hate them or anything, but I was like, it's just weird that there's no dialogue. Like the Abraham stuff, I was like, okay, it's them at least talking, but they're just staring, and we don't know what they're staring at, and then we find out it's like them staring at an open field, and it's a beautiful sunset, and it's like, this is what we're fighting for and stuff. And I was like, okay, of course it makes sense, and I was curious, but not like it was an epic reveal, which I figured it wouldn't be. It was a flashback sequence. But it was still fun, it didn't make me hate the episode or anything, but it was, once again, one of those 90-minute things where I'm like, I feel like there's just a lot of stuff that could have randomly been taken out, although I do personally believe this used the time way better than the last finale, where it was just so much driving. It was like, they definitely didn't need 90 minutes. This, I feel like, maybe, I don't really know how much time was literally spent on her inside the coffin, but it was probably like 5 minutes total throughout the episode, and it's like, that's not nearly as bad as the last season, where it was like, there's so much scenes of just the RV going down the road. It was like, they definitely didn't need 90 minutes of that. So this, I think, was definitely a better use of all the time, and plus we get to see a bunch of different stories play out, because we see the Hilltop going to Alexandria and how they're trying to figure it out, and making that call. And even they mention it in the episode where it's like, Rick wants us to stay here, and basically he wants his daughter protected. And I thought that was kind of cool. It's like, that's why he wants them to stay, because he trusts them and he wants them to stay there. But it's like, they're going to need help if this goes sideways, and that's why Maggie has to make such a tough decision. And of course we have, Ezekiel was just ready to roll after, recent events. So it was just cool that we got those little moments. They're very small, but I felt they were really good moments, especially the one with Ezekiel and Morgan, because that was such a big deal for them to lose a character so recently. And Morgan going through this crazy wave of emotions and changes. Same with Carol, because they have that scene where they sit down after all the chaos is done. And I think finally these two characters have gone like back and forth with like not killing and killing, and then switching it where Morgan will kill somebody and Carol doesn't want to kill, and then it switches back again, and then one person leaves and is like, I just want to be exiled, basically self-exile. And now I think they finally come back to, I just want to protect the people I care about, and I'm willing to kill if I need to. So it's good to see they're finally back to just being people who are surviving like the other characters. They're having like these crazy back and forth emotional moments that sometimes just seem like out of nowhere. But ultimately I think they finally, all that stuff is balanced out, so that was really good. The Hilltop stuff was pretty cool. Jesus talking about like, I'm glad you're the one here helping us make this decision, because we know what Gregory would have done, so that was obvious. But good episode. Certainly looking forward to what we're going to get in this next season. I can't wait to see what they do with this next season. That's all I can really say. I don't, of course, want to spoil anything, but they're going to war, and I expect some losses, and there's really no way around it. It just wouldn't be a good season if there aren't a lot of losses, because it's war. And if, considering Negan's character in general, this has been him nice, and we've seen like 5 people die because of that. Imagine them legitimately going to war. Like, there aren't any lessons that he's teaching anybody. He's actually going solely to kill people now. So we already lost 5 people, and he was teaching lessons this whole season. So it's got to get crazy next time. But I'm looking forward to what we're going to get. Of course, definitely want to know what you guys thought about this finale. So please comment below. Let me know your favorite parts, least favorite parts. Obviously, there's a lot of craziness going on leading into the next season. So I definitely want to know what you guys want to see, whether you're comic fans or not. Of course, if you are comic fans, just make sure you put like a spoiler tag if you're going to talk about some specifics. I am very curious where they're going to go, as far as how the next season is going to play out and where it might end, if it's going to be the completion of this arc. And then after that, we finally go into the next big set of villains, because I know who they are as well. But I'm looking forward to how that'll play out. Like, there's so much, but I think they can definitely fit it. Because I knew they had to do 2 seasons for Negan. I'm like, there's no way in the world they could fit everything for Negan into 1 season and then kill him at the end. I was like, that just wouldn't make any sense. The whole season would be, admittedly, would be the best season ever, but also it's television, and I knew they would never do that because it's such a big villain, and they would want to do the character stuff and all the drama and all that crap. It's not crap, but you know, some of it has been this season. There's been some stuff that's just been like the first 4 episodes. I think it was. I was just like hating this whole season, especially the premiere, because I didn't care. So there was definitely some stuff for me in the beginning where I was just like, I feel like nothing's effing happening when they kept focusing on one person at a time. And I think they finally stopped that with the Terra episode, and I was like, okay, finally, we just have multiple stories, and it got better after that. But I knew they had to do 2 seasons for what they have for Negan, and I'm curious if they'll stretch it to a 3rd. They could if they wanted to do like a ton of character stuff, but I think at this point, if they focus all on the war, it makes sense to have the whole arc. You know, especially even if they did the same amount of episodes, they can easily make it happen that way. But looking forward to the premiere. I hope it's crazy with it being the 100th episode. I'm hoping that it's really intense. Maybe we'll start with a death that time as well, or at least just a lot of close calls to death. But certainly looking forward to the next season. Like I said, want to know what you guys want to see from the next season. If you have any theories, if you're not a comic fan, if you are a comic fan, what big moments you guys want to see. And of course, I want to know what you guys know about this finale in general. So please comment below, let me know. And thanks for watching.